Welcome to We Believe, a consideration of religious beliefs and God's Word, examined in conversation by James F. Walsh, an attorney and Roman Catholic deacon, and Dr. Richard Shriver, United Methodist minister and professor of theology. Each discussion embraces carefully chosen subjects, selected in an effort to deepen your religious awareness, in the sincere hope that We Believe will help provide a bridge of understanding among all the children of God.
Well, welcome to We Believe, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to you, Richard.
Hello, Jim.
We have two lovely, well, he's not so lovely, but she's lovely, Kim Bollinger. She's with us today, and Greg Meinhardt.
And I'm good looking.
And he's good looking.
He's good
not.
looking.
You're not lovely though.
No.
Anyway,
They both improve on us.
Yeah, I think so. Why not let us talk about the 8th commandment for Catholics, and I think it's the 9th commandment for Methodists and other
I think
Protestants.
that's right. Yeah.
And we'll discuss how that happened. We number the commandments differently, and we
That's
found
right.
that on the radio. I think we discovered it.
And we can sort of prove that we Protestants are wrong.
Well, well, you know, we'll get to that in this
Okay.
next session here. The 8th commandment is this, for us Catholics anyway: thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. That's how we would say it.
I think it means don't lie.
Don't lie, right. The phraseology of this commandment has always kind of reminded me of the courtroom. You know, I spent time with your brother for
Yeah.
20 years, really.
In the courtroom,
DA's office. And so in the courtroom, the clerk would hold the Bible out for the witness and say, raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, so help you God? Or do you affirm? Sometimes they'd say affirm. And, well, sometimes people got nervous, you know, and they'd hold up their left hand. See, well, the clerk would not say stupid. He'd say, raise your other right hand.
Yeah.
That was a nice way to put it, didn't you think? I always thought it was much
The
better.
other right hand, yeah.
Much better than saying, look, you stupid, you don't know a right from your left. You know, anyway, that's what I
used
learned.
to call it square dances, and you know, you had to know which was right and which was left, or you couldn't follow the directions of the square dance color.
Some people don't know, huh?
I used to say, you know, your right hand's the one where your thumb points left.
Okay, all right. It's a violation then to under oath to lie about your neighbor. But the 8th commandment covers a lot of other stuff. It covers such thing as slander. Do you know what slander is, Kim? Slander.
Slander is making misstatements about a person.
That's lying about a person in writing or word of mouth. It's slanderous. It's just you're telling lies about a person.
And it's assumed to be something bad.
Oh yeah, something bad.
You don't
In fact,
slander a person with praise.
you told me, Richard, on another show, you were up in Wisconsin or somewhere up north, and there was a lady who was a friend of yours, and somebody came into her real estate office and told something really bad about you. And she said, where did you learn that? Go tell us that. Tell the story.
I was a young bachelor,
All right.
and was the minister at this church, and got a call one afternoon. Tiny Gal, my good friend Tiny Gal, saved my life. And somebody had come in that morning. She said, on the phone, she said, get yourself over here. So I got in the
You
car.
could tell it was something bad.
Went to her office. She had a real estate and insurance office. And she and her husband, and I went over there, and she said, I got something to tell you. And she told me that a woman had come in that morning saying that she had it on good
Terms.
good
Authority,
information,
yeah.
good authority that her preacher, which was me, which was I, was having an affair with a 14-year-old girl in the church.
I see. That's
Oh,
interesting.
God.
Yeah.
And Tiny said, where did you hear that? And she said, you tell me, who told you that? She got in her car and went to that person's house and said, where did you hear this? They went to about 5 houses till she got to the beginning of it, which was said, well, the 14-year-old girl told us so.
Oh.
So
Well,
I told her daughter that, you know.
told her daughter
Yeah,
that.
and the daughter told her. Anyhow, she then went to where the 14-year-old girl got off the school bus
Yeah.
that afternoon and sat there in her car and waited for the school bus to come. And when the girl got off the bus, she grabbed her, you know, and she said, do you know what's being said about it?
Yeah.
Are you having an affair? She said, yeah. And she said, do you know what an affair is?
So what
And
kind of affair?
The 14-year-old girl said, yeah, I like him.
Oh, I see.
You know, I was such a handsome
Oh,
young
you
man,
were,
that
yeah.
sort of-
Time changed.
And she said, no, that's not what it means. She told the 14-year-old girl
was
what it
having
did
an affair.
mean. And the girl just nearly fainted. She said, oh, no. So then Tiny went around to each one of those again in reverse and
Told
told
them
them, you straighten out anybody you've told this to. You know.
Well, that saved your neck.
It really
didn't it?
did save my neck. I had given the girl a piano lesson,
Oh.
and Tiny ended up by saying, no more piano lessons.
All right, okay. Well, glad to know you didn't have to go to jail. You had a friend there anyway.
Well, thank goodness for that lady following
Yeah.
through
Oh,
with it.
what a friend, you know,
Pursued
what a
it.
friend.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, she got to the truth.
Yeah.
All
not,
right.
not many would, you know, an awful lot of people have enjoyed it instead of
Yeah,
trying
exactly.
to stop it. She really was a good
Well,
friend.
anyway, many years ago, Shakespeare said, "He who steals my purse steals trash. It is his, it is mine, it has been a servant for many. He who steals my good name steals all." And you know, that's very true. It's as true today as it was in the days of Shakespeare. We commit 3 wrongs when we involve ourselves in slander. You sin against the 8th commandment, we sin against the virtue of justice, and we sin against the virtue of charity. In addition, and comes to you, in addition, we have a positive obligation to correct the injury that might have been done. There was a story told to me, and I'm sure it's not true, but to illustrate a point, I guess. There was a fellow who had said something wrong about, lied about his neighbors, something bad, and he was at confession. He wasn't really impressed with the harm that he might have done. So the priest gave him a very, very unusual penance. He said, I tell you what, go to the top of the highest building in town and take a pillow with you and cut it open and let the feathers fly out all over. So he did that. And he comes back and said, now the second half of your penance is this. Go collect the feathers. The guy said, well, that's impossible. And he said, yeah, it's impossible for you to correct all the things, the lies that you've told about this individual. It's impossible if you go back and correct all that. So, and Richard then,
That's
I
pretty
mentioned
good.
this before, he said, well, what about these pillows that are made out of foam rubber? I know. Thanks.
You're ruining the point.
You're ruining the point.
You're
Richard.
ruining
No.
it.
Yeah.
Just move on from there.
All right. Anyway, he didn't have foam rubber. Yeah. So that's what he told him to do. That's really not true. I never heard a penance
Well,
like
it's
that.
a
But it would
great
be a good
allegory.
one. All right, we have an obligation not only for slander, but also not to commit detraction. Now, detraction is something a little bit different than slander. Theologically, I'm speaking. Legally, they may have a little different terms, but detraction is to say something that's true about your neighbor, but you don't need to say it. It's not necessary to say it. And your conversation usually goes something like this. I better tell you something. And what that means is I've got a juicy piece of
Gossip.
Gossip, that's the word I'm looking for. You don't need to go out and tell everybody your neighbors get drunk, fight every Saturday night. In the first place, everybody probably knows it that lives in the neighborhood. So the idea is if what you know could do no good at all, just drop it, leave them. So that would be some things against the 8th commandment.
Don't you appreciate people that you know that never are willing to say anything bad about people?
Yeah,
I mean, I've had a few friends that there's no way on earth you'd ever get them to say anything bad about anybody.
You know, it's odd. I was having a conversation with our producer just this afternoon, and we talked about Father Bevington, Monsignor Bevington, for about 3 or 4 days. I never did hear him say anything bad. I think he is probably truly a saint. You used to say he was a saint, and I used to say you can't be a saint till you're dead in the Catholic Church. So now you could say he's a saint. I think he was, but I said to our producer, I don't think I ever heard him say anything. You ever heard him? He was a very saintly guy. So anyway, well, we're getting off the subject here.
No, we're not. That's the subject.
Maybe that is the subject. Okay, now, on the other hand, there are times when you have an obligation to say something. Let's suppose you see a man that you recognize at night run into a building, and a few minutes later you see the building catch on fire as a result of arson. You have an obligation under those situations to tell the authorities what you saw. That would be telling the truth and telling something bad, but there's a reason for doing that. So that would be another. It's one thing to say, but going beyond that, it's one thing to say about a person with whom we disagree, that person is an idiot, a complete idiot. We've heard that said. It might be better to say, well, I disagree with the point of view he's expressing, but I guess he feels he's got justification for it.
And he's stupid too.
All right. There's an old expression, but a true one, to speak ill of a person, if it can accomplish no good at all, nothing useful, it's better to say nothing at all. And I think that we could sum that up, say, in the words of Christ, you shall love your Lord your God with your whole heart, your whole soul, your whole mind. That's the first commandment. The second is likened to it. You should love your neighbor as yourself. And so that kind of sums up the 8th commandment. Now, Kim, we're getting close to where you are the moderator, and I wonder, do you have any questions that you could kind of give us a hint that you're going to ask in the second half of this effort?
My first question is going to be mainly scriptural, so we're going to probably look to Richard for this.
All right.
Why is this commandment so serious? Why is it so serious, or why was it so serious to bear false witness against your neighbor back in biblical times when these commandments were set down? Why did the Lord our God feel that was such a serious thing to put it as one of the 10 commandments given to Moses? Why was that so serious? That's going to be my first question. I have some other ones, but that's the first.
Well, that would be a good one. What about you, Greg? You got anything coming up in the next half? Because Kim is in charge, and she's got plenty of them. So anyway, hold that till the next time, because I think our time's run out for the first half. Stay with us, folks. We'll be right back. Well, welcome, folks. Welcome back to We Believe. The second session here is Kim's session. And you're up to kind of collecting the questions that are sent in and the questions you and Greg have, and Richard will answer all those questions for you.
We're all agog, madam.
Don't you appreciate being volunteered like that? I've always wanted to ask you that. In listening to the first session, there was something that occurred to me right off the bat, and that is, why was it so serious? Why do you think that it is such a serious issue for someone to slander their neighbor, to bear false witness? Why would the Lord our God put that as one of the 10 Commandments, the things to be concerned with?
This is just an opinion, but the way it reads to me...
I thought you said it was going to be my answer.
Well, okay, I'll let him. You wanted him...
No, you're the one that said that, but go ahead, go ahead. I know.
I just think it sounds like a courtroom situation. A person, when he gets on a witness stand, if he's talking about somebody, he needs to tell the truth. Now, that's true in all situations, but it does seem to me the way it's worded, it means in a serious kind of legalistic situation. Give testimony against, tell not, bear false witness. To be a witness and lie as a witness that this guy did something that he really didn't do, that's pretty terrible. That's how I see it. How do you see it?
Well, you know, being a courtroom lawyer, and my brother, your boss, said you were the best courtroom lawyer in Tennessee.
Well, you know, your brother was very kind.
Well, he knew you were good at it. My experience of him is he's sort of like a bulldog. He grabs something and he won't let go till he's finished it off. But I have several responses to that. Why is it important? I think that the basic background of that commandment has to do with truth.
Had to do with what, Richard?
Truth, to tell the truth.
Tell the truth.
Getting the truth.
And it gets specific in terms of witnessing, false witness, do not do it, about your neighbor. But I think it covers more than just testimony in a trial or testimony. It has to do with things like we were talking about in the last segment, gossip, all sorts of things. But essentially, the point is, don't lie. And the thing that makes it natural law, in your terminology, is that if we can't count on people telling the truth in a civilization, then the civilization is going to fail. It's going to eventually fall apart. We're dependent upon people telling the truth. And we constantly are in trouble because people don't.
And I think that, go ahead.
Suppose you're in a strange city, and you know, and you need to find the bus station. You see a policeman on the corner. Say, "Pardon me, sir, can you tell me where to find the Greyhound bus station?" He said, "Yeah, go up here 2 blocks and take a right, and 1 block you'll find it." You go up 2 blocks, take a right, go down 1 block, it's not there. It must be a dumb cop or a situation where he's not telling the truth. If you lived in a situation where you presumed people were lying, what could you do? I mean, our whole society is based on the notion that at least some semblance of truth is being said. Don't you think so, Richard?
Yeah, there is an assumption that there is truth. And essentially, I think in any theology, you come up with the concept that God is truth.
That's
and
right.
Truth is God. And therefore, any case, whether it's false witness against a neighbor, which has an evil side to it in addition to an unreasonable side, it's just tremendously important that we not do that. Now, in my life, I've had a number of situations where people, if they don't like you, they will create things to get rid of you, so essentially.
That's difficult to defend against,
Didn't
too.
Jesus say that the devil is the father of lies? Some question. I think that's a quote from Scripture. I believe I remember someplace Jesus says the devil is the father of lies, and you said Christ is the person of truth. There it is. There's that dichotomy.
Well, even in the New Testament, and Greg, I think, can support this as well, and is the scriptural passages where they tried many times to catch our Lord, and they could not find a credible witness against him. And I believe they had to have two witnesses against him, and they couldn't find two witnesses. And I think that goes back to Old Testament, where two witnesses, they could put you to death for two witnesses.
In this day and time too, how many times do we run across that we have to use God's gifts that He gives us? Because a lot of times we run across the truth, but we're really not quite sure because it's mixed with the non-truths. And consequently, God gives us those gifts and that reason that He has, that instills in us to decipher, to let the truth come forward to us. Because a lot of people too will take things out of context and present it to us, and it's a half-truth. So we have to read in between the lines.
You know, that may be the redeeming feature in the many murder mysteries that we see on television that are weekly programs, you know, is that the one thing that they do that is good is that whoever the hero or heroine is, they keep on until they get the truth.
The detective.
The truth will set you
the
free.
detective, that's tremendously important.
Well, what else you got?
And that's another point that Greg made during the break, was the fact that sometimes something will be printed. We've talked about detraction, that something is printed that is not quite accurate. It may be somewhat true, but it's not quite accurate. It's taken out of context. And
it's done to be detrimental to that individual. It's done intentionally, and the harm is done. The seed is planted, and they try to retract it, but they put it on the 5th page back in the right-hand corner that nobody sees, and consequently, the harm is already done.
And Greg pointed out something at the break. You could take somebody's statement, you know. You could have a tape recorder, and you could chop it up. You could make the person say almost anything you want them to say that has no relevance to what is really said. But it sounds like he or she is saying something.
well, the easy example is just the recent statements by the Pope. The interpretations are 180 degrees off of what the Pope actually said, and he couldn't have meant both that entire broad spectrum. It's because that sometimes things are chopped up.
It may be somebody's putting their own spin on it.
That's exactly right. That spin. The word spin is a 20th century.
Is that right? Well, I see a lot of times people put spin on things, and what they say is true, except not quite. You know, except from their point. You got anything else?
I do. I would like to touch on something that Richard said earlier, that he had known people in his life that had never, as far as he knew, never said anything bad about another person. And I think we've all encountered people like that, and I'd be interested in how you think they are able to do that. How they manage to control their tongue and control their minds and control that aspect of their personality to never say something bad. My husband has several members of his family that are like that, and the term have never, to my knowledge, said anything bad about anyone else. And there's an old Southern term for that, and it's called having no bad bones.
No bad bones.
No bad bones.
All right.
So how do you think that someone keeps from doing?
Well, there was another thing you said during the break. It was a Southern expression, that the poor thing. How was that?
Oh, bless his heart. or bless her heart. It's a preface to gossip.
Saying something really bad.
Poor so-and-so, he's done so-and-so, bless his heart. It's almost like I'm excusing myself for saying this bad thing, and I'm blessing this person to keep myself from bearing the consequences. It's very common.
Well, the
Heard
way
that
I've
many
heard that
times.
expression is usually to sort of defend a person that's had something bad happen to them. Oh, bless it.
Well, that's a different thing entirely. I'm talking about the person with the motivation to gossip.
To gossip.
Will try and deflect it by saying, "Bless his heart."
Yeah.
Greg was about to say something.
Yeah, Greg, what is it?
Now, that type of a person, I don't know whether you can actually stop them or not. I do think on the receiving end of when we listen to it that we don't need to take it into our heart. Because as we hear negative things, we tend to want to believe that. But you know, God has given us the reason in order to say, no, let's not listen to that because we know it is gossip. And,
Well,
and
go
it's
ahead.
easy to do, hard to do, but even like the Lord said, you know, what comes out of our mouth, we have to be very careful because we can really spit out some vile things that's unnecessary towards someone else.
You know, Greg, that's happened a lot recently where people have been accused, I mean, public officials have
Falsely.
been accused of things. And it's interesting to me how many of my friends assume that they're guilty.
Mm-hmm.
And that assumption, I could name several occasions, and if I do that, we'll get into a fight here. But several people that have been accused of doing some foul deed. And I can't find people that don't think he's guilty or she's guilty. They all say, yeah, yeah, yeah. And it stems back to the fact of whether you like that person or not,
right.
as to whether you think they're guilty or not. Not to do with whether we really know. And in most cases, we never will really know.
No.
Well, look, we've just about used up our time, ladies and gentlemen. We've enjoyed being with you today, and we hope you can be back again soon to listen to We Believe. So thank you, Kim. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, Jim.
And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being with us today. God bless you.